Hello, friends. This week I'm thinking about how difficult it is right now to be identified as a Christian, to be identified with the church. As we see division not just across our nation, but specifically within the church, it's hard to navigate these conversations and not want to be identified with a certain faction or a certain movement, or wanting to make sure that we're aligned with this group and not that group. And in the midst of all this, I can't help but think about how the world is viewing the church right now. And there are many facets to it, many things we could get into, but the one that I'm stuck on today is humility. James chapter 4, we read that God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. I think we can all admit that regardless of what side of the aisle or side of the issue you're on, there has been a lack of humility in our dialogue and in our actions toward one another over these last months and years. I believe that this is central to the Christian message. It's not just what we say or what we do, but how we do it and how we posture ourselves in the midst of it, especially when things are difficult, when tempers and anxiety are high, when fear is flowing freely. It's all the more important how we as Christ followers model and demonstrate the love of Christ. And the way that Christ loved us was in the posture of a servant, one who, even though all of heaven and earth were his, humbled himself. I believe that this is also really important to understanding what Jesus is talking about in these sometimes cryptic sayings in the Sermon on the Mount. Today, we're in Matthew chapter 7, starting in verse 7. Listen and hear the word of the Lord. Jesus says to us, "Ask, and it will be given you. Search, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who searches finds, and to everyone who knocks the door will be opened. Is there anyone among you who, if your child asks for bread, will give a stone? Or if the child asks for a fish, will give a snake? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him?" This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I have 4 young children at home, ages 7 and under. I happen to think that they're exceptional and wonderful and beautiful children. But nonetheless, they have all of the same quirks and flaws that every one of us did when we came into this world. And it's revealing when you watch children over the course of months and years just how selfish and sometimes thoughtless we are as people. Because children do not ask. Children demand. And children do not like to search, do not like to seek out. They know what they want, they know what they don't want, and if they can't find what they're looking for, they don't want to look for it. They immediately resort to tantrum. And children don't really understand what it is to knock. I mean, literally, they will barge in to any room or any moment or any conversation with simply no awareness that they're intruding on anything. And this is not unique to children. In fact, I think by nature, we tend to carry these same attributes into adulthood. Unless we really devote ourselves to discipleship and the work of becoming more Christ-like, we carry these same attitudes with us into our adult lives. It only changes shape a little bit. But fundamentally, we all want to maintain the illusion of control. We do not like to ask, because asking means admitting that there's something I don't know or do not have. And we do not like to search, because that takes work. You can ask my wife. I will stare at the refrigerator, and rather than moving one thing, I will simply ask her where it is, and it drives her crazy. I think it's just efficient, but she finds it quite annoying, and rightly so. We don't like to search. We like what we already have. In fact, we are more comfortable in the half-truths or having half the story if we already know it. We're more comfortable with that than we are searching for what we do not have. And we do not like to be in the posture of the person standing outside the door who's knocking. We like to have the keys. We like to have authority and ownership. And all the more maybe in American culture where we prize self-sufficiency. I have everything I need on my own. I don't need anyone else to help me out. And we pride ourselves on being right. I already know everything I need to know. And we pride ourselves on ownership and power and authority and control. I imagine that even though we have our specific forms of these things, this is common to all of humanity. We, by nature, take a posture of pride. And Jesus invites us into a completely different posture, a humble posture. Because to ask is to admit that there is something that I do not have. To search is to admit that I am not there yet. And to knock is to admit that I don't have complete control over the situation. I am at someone else's mercy to let me in. To ask is to become a beggar. To search is to become a student, or maybe to use an older word, a pilgrim, or a sojourner, someone who is seeking, who is not yet arrived. And to knock is to become a guest, to become beggars and students and guests. This is not our natural tendency. If anything, we resist these things with all of our might. But it is a necessary step in letting go in order for us to grow into the likeness of Jesus Christ and to be able to enter into the world in a posture of humility and bring about the kingdom, to bring about transformation. Because something fundamentally changes in me when I take the posture of a beggar and a student and a guest. Because suddenly now I'm open to the possibility that not only does God have something to give me, I'm also open to the possibility that my fellow beggars and fellow students and fellow guests also have some gift to give me. Maybe even have something that I fundamentally need. And I humble myself, and now I can go to my sister of color and to say, I need to hear your story. Would you be willing to share that with me? And I can go to my queer brother and say, I actually need you to go on this journey with me. I don't fully understand this yet, but I want to get there. And I can go to my neighbors who live in poverty and to say to them not, okay, what do you need from me? But say to them instead, can I join you at your table? I become a beggar a student, a guest. This is a radical change, not just in our thinking, but in our living and in our acting and in our doing. To become beggars and students and guests. I think about the issues we have right now as a nation with immigration and border walls. We'd like to be the ones on this side of the wall. But when we become guests, we stand in solidarity with those who stand at the outside of the wall and knock. We don't just want to help people who are on the margins socially, politically, religiously, geographically. We don't just want to give them charity. We actually start to identify with them. And it's not about what are we going to do for this group or for these people. It's what are we going to do about us? We identify with those at the margins because I now understand that I, before God, am a beggar, a student, and a guest. That all of us are guests seated at the table of God's mercy and grace, and that I actually have no arrogance to stand on. And I have not completed and cannot complete the journey on my own. And I am a beggar at God's feet, asking for his mercy and his grace. And Jesus leaves it open-ended. He doesn't even tell us what to ask for. He opens it up. The limit is the sky. The limit is our own imagination. Or maybe it's only our willingness to ask. Now, this might sound silly, but think about how often you obsess about something, you think about something, but you don't actually ask for it. I don't think we even consciously recognize that we don't understand the difference between wishing and asking. Because wishing is just wanting something. It's just thinking about it over and over and maybe even obsessing about it. But it just remains wishing. And like we read in James 4, you do not have because you do not ask. You can want something, you can desire it, you can work yourself up about it, you can cry over it, but it's not the same as simply consciously bringing it to God and saying, God, will you give this to me? Lord, please make this happen. And I think we don't do that, sometimes out of pride, but I think it's often out of fear that if we actually asked for it, we might not get it. If we keep wishing, we can always leave the door open. But the moment we ask, we are beggars at the feet of our Father in heaven. We are completely at his mercy for him to grant it or not, to say yes or to say no. And friends, I don't want to pretend like this is a formula to get anything and everything in your life that you want. Just simply put it on your wish list and send it to God and watch the blessings pour down. I think we can easily abuse this kind of theology. There's only one clause that Jesus gives, and that it is that our Father in heaven will give us good things. And you know, especially from if you're around children, that children will sometimes want things and desperately demand them or plead for them, but things that are not good for them. I love this image of Jesus says, who of you, if your child asks for a fish, will give a snake? No, of course not. You're going to give him a fish. But what if your kid asks for a snake? You're not going to do that either. And sometimes we don't know how to ask. We don't know what to ask for. And sometimes God does say no. But the promise that Jesus gives us is that our Father in heaven desires to give us good things. As much as every earthly parent wants to shower good things on their children, as much as every earthly lover and friend wants to lavish those around them with good gifts and affection and things that show how much I love you, how much more does your Father in heaven want to give you good things? And when we come to him in a posture that is humble, that recognizes that we are beggars and students and guests in God's presence, then we begin to see the good things he wants to give us. And we have the courage to ask that those things be given in Jesus' name. And so, friends, as you travel with your fellow beggars and students and guests, I pray that you may trust in the abundance of a Father in heaven who desires and is just waiting to give you good things. This is the antidote to the poison of a scarcity mentality. Because if we believe that there is not enough to go around, either in our family, in our nation, in our community, in our church, if we believe there is not enough, then we puff ourselves up with pride. We go into defense and attack mode. And we don't ask, we demand, and we tell. We don't search, because that would mean admitting we don't know. We buckle down and we presume to already know everything. And we don't knock, we barge in. When we're afraid, when we're scared, when we believe in a God of scarcity, then we do not embody his love. But when we fundamentally believe that our Father in heaven desires to give good things to those who ask him, then we become the beggars and students and guests in the world who not only receive abundantly, but give generously to our fellow travelers. So may our Father in heaven bless you in his goodness and abundance with good things. And may he give you the courage to ask, the willingness to search, and the humility to knock continually at his door. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.